Argyle and Brenna watched the remainder of the musicians' set, which consisted of 4 more melodic tunes, during which Drake Archer recited his poetry. The crowd was pleased a great deal, it seemed, and when their performance was done with, many patrons gathered to the side of the stage to speak with Drake and the other balladeers. "Oh, I'm going to meet him," said Brenna. Argyle looked at those who congregated by the dark, Verlish poet. "Well, I hope you brought your tipping money. It looks like they're showing their appreciation with more than just words and handshakes." "I wish I had such spare coin. I would gladly give him a few silver for such a moving performance. Wait here." Brenna walked over to where the crowd stood. She felt nervous, wishing she had coin to give out, or at least some impressive words to offer. At first, she had a hard time spotting Drake amongst the people, but soon she realized that he was not there. She wondered if he had left already. Brenna is making a streetwise check. She comes up with a 19. Brenna, doing her best to fit in well, began asking around as to Drake's whereabouts. She soon found herself conversing with an elven woman.
"You just missed him. I didn't get a chance to say anything to him either. Apparently, he seemed hurried and then left." "Oh, that's too bad. I quite wish to tell him how much I loved the performance tonight." "I feel the same. He really evoked a sense of longing. I wonder if he is speaking as himself in those poems, or as a character."
Brenna's going to make an insight check to see if she can determine that. She gets a 17, which is a failure. She really is not sure who Drake Archer is speaking as he is reading his poems. That is a very good question. I hadn't even thought of that at all.
"Really? Well, which would you prefer?"
For him to be speaking from his own heart, his own experiences.
"I prefer character actors personally. It is so much more thrilling to see somebody experiencing another's point of view."
That is interesting. Oh, by the way, I am Brenna.
"Charmed. I am Arlie. My friends and I are over at that table. We have an empty seat if you'd care to join us."
Yes, but it's not just me. Brenna gestured toward Argyle, who was barely noticeable, sitting in the shadowed corner.
"I'm sure we can fit your sweetheart as well."
"Oh, he's just a friend, thank you. I mean, we'll join you, probably."
"Of course."
Brenna went back to Argyle. "Did you get discouraged?" "No, he's already left or disappeared. Anyways, I met an elven lady who asked us over to her table. Let's join them." "All right, just in a minute, please. I'm trying to think here." "You didn't find a new hideout today, did you?" "Well, no, not exactly. Apparently there's an old attic at the Wilsham tenement that hasn't been used in years. I tried finding the entrance, but I only got as far as this rusty, locked door when some tenants walked by and got bloody suspicious." "Are you going to try again? Are you going to go back there, or are you just going to stay at my place?" "Well, that's what I'm thinking about." A couple of minutes later, the two of them walked over to the table where the elven party was seated. They introduced themselves and sat down. At the table was Arlie, and another female elf, and 3 elven men. They all were drinking wine and speaking in Elven. Their spirits were high, bordering on drunken, and their toasts were loud and extravagant. The 2 friends made some small talk, at first about the evening's performance. When Brenna mentioned she'd be performing there in a mere 3 days' time, they all seemed somewhat impressed. She could tell that they had all seen their fair share of routines here, and that she would have to be at her very best to expect to turn any heads. Argyle sat there, half lost in thought and half observing the elven merrymaking. Brenna knew the basics of the elven tongue, but those at the table spoke fast and in an embellished manner, so that she could barely catch half of what they were saying. One of the elven men looked at quiet Argyle and said, "Are you not drinking with us?" "Oh, if you put a cup in front of me, I promise it will be drank." "Can't you buy your own?" I'm saving up at the moment. Just 100 more gold and I'll be ready to put a down payment on a mansion." "Oh, yes, and I'm going to be his gardener." Some of the elves chuckled, but the one looking at Argyle continued to stare. "If you've got that much, then surely you can spare a little for some wine. My cup is empty as well." "Sorry, I would if I could." Arlie said to her elven friend,
"Ilanvain, stop being a pest."
Ilanvain responded, saying something in Elven.
Brenna
Brenna scarcely made out what he said.
"What did he say about me?" He said something about you are the real pest and you've been staring at him."
Argyle didn't like the sound of that so much. "Staring at you? More like staring through you. You're skinnier than a twig."
"You're not so thick yourself. You don't eat a lot, do you, street rat?"
"I'd rather be a street rat than a drunken elf who sounds like he has carrots stuck up his nose." Brenna burst out with giggles, and Arlie stood up.
"I think you all had better go for now."
"That suits me fine." Brenna, trying to recover from laughter, stood up and excused herself.
"Well, goodbye, Arlie. It was good meeting you."
As they walked away, Ilanvain shouted,
"I hope you break a lute string!"
Brenna scoffed under her breath as the two of them exited the building.
"Well, that was awkward. I thought Arlie was interesting, at least."
"I couldn't say. For all I know, they were talking about elven secrets to washing undergarments."
"Yes, and I realize I need to learn some better Elven. How are you today? And how much does this cost? Don't exactly help me make acquaintances at the tavern."
"How do you say, I will punch your face?"
"Come on, you've got enough trouble as it is."
Argyle tightened his lips and took a breath. "I know, you don't have to remind me."
"You are coming with me, aren't you?"
"I'll meet up with you later." Argyle looked back at the vampire's kiss. "I've got to gather some necessities."
"You're not going to thief that elf guy, Ilvena, or whatever his name was?"
"Yes, I am."
"Thieving an elf? In the Elven district, where he likely lives?"
"Why would I wait until he went back there?"
"Because you're not doing it here."
"Fine, I'll follow him to his house and rob it."
"Are you sure you weren't drinking their wine? That sounds worse than avoiding the city watch. Ever heard of keen elven ears? Eyes that hunt by moonlight alone?"
Argyle picked up a stone and threw it angrily. "Well, I'm poor, and he's annoying."
"All right, then. It's your neck. Just be careful, whatever you do."
"I'll see you later on, Brenna."